I wanted to start
Yeah.
off by saying, like, you're like the first influencer I followed.
No way.
Even before influencers was a term, like early
Yeah.
2000s, I remember following you because you were doing turbulence training back then.
Yeah, man. Yeah, what an evolution. Yeah, back when I knew Johnny B. I've known Johnny B since 2001, man.
I know, and it's funny because someone asked me today, what's my greatest regret, and that was around investing. And then when I was preparing for this call, I was thinking, damn, I should have hired Craig back then. I'd be so
Ah,
much richer. I'd be like Johnny B.
there you go, my man.
And actually,
Johnny's great, man. It's what a journey. So have you met his friend Brad, our mutual friend Brad?
no, I haven't met Brad. I only know John,
Yeah.
and we have a lot.
How did you and John get connected?
It's actually another investor that connected us, and he was looking to get into
Cool.
buying investment properties, and that's how he met me.
Awesome.
Yeah, and actually, it's a good segue into coaches because I've done some bashing on my and whatever I put out there about coaches because everyone says they're a coach now, but like you're,
Yeah.
that's funny that you're saying because a lot of people are using the same title that you are but like one of your students that we both know is just killing it, and I know him, you know him, and I think that's one of the testaments. That's one of the things that anyone should look for when they're looking to hire a coach is have they created successful students,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I have an Instagram video coming out on what to look for in a success in a coach when you're looking for a coach. And I'm not the type of person who's like, nobody should be a coach until they do X, Y, and Z. I think
Right.
as long as you in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king, as Dan Kennedy would say.
Mm-hmm.
And so as long as you can help somebody, you can do whatever you want. Because it was the same sort of thing back when we were in the fitness world. Like we had these old school guys like, oh man, you can't write an article on the internet until you've been training for 10 years. I'm like, really? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how that's a rule, but it's like, obviously some people are not qualified to be coaches, but most people at the end of the day, we can all get lots of information from most people.
That's awesome because I remember you were deadlifting like 430 or 460 without chalk.
425 was my best ever, man.
Yeah,
425.
you were doing reps though, because I remember commenting, and then you replied back because I asked. I remember exactly. I commented, dude, you're not even chalking your hands and no straps.
I've never used straps. I never figured out how to use them. So, yeah.
And you said your gym doesn't allow chalk. Like, damn, Craig's a beast.
Yeah, back in the day.
That's super awesome. Yeah. So you are legit like the first influencer I've ever followed in anything.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and then we've crossed paths so many times. We just not necessarily crossed paths. Your name's just come up so many times. John.
Oh yeah, Ryan Hardmarsh.
Hindmarsh.
That's
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Because you shot one of his videos in his gym or something like that. Because I remember
Yeah.
you eating. I don't want to talk too much about fitness. I'll bug you a little bit because
Sure.
this episode will come out around New Year's, so I know people are
Cool.
worried about that. I remember.
Did you ever see the pumpkin video that I shot in his gym?
I don't remember that one, but the one that I thought was hilarious and actually and again, I was pretty young. I was early 20s, so I didn't know anything about health and fitness. But you were demoing, can you outwork a bad diet? And you were eating pizza while running on the treadmill.
Well, that was that guy Brad that I mentioned.
Yeah.
So John was there that night.
Uh-huh.
So I got John and Brad to come to Ryan's gym.
Yeah.
And I had them bring pizza, a hamburger, soda, an espresso brownie, and a frappuccino. And we made 4 videos.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them was me running on the treadmill while Brad ate a pizza and drank a soda to show like, hey, you can eat 1,000 calories in the time that it takes to burn 42. And then John ate a hamburger and drank a soda while I did something else. I can't remember what. And then that Brad guy, after he'd eaten the pizza and the soda, we made him eat a espresso brownie and a frappuccino. He ate like 3,000 calories in half an hour, and I did like kettlebell swings or something. So we made like a series of 4 videos, but that one was the one that got the most play. Yeah, but Johnny was there that night.
And this episode will come around New Year's, so folks, you cannot out eat a bad diet. That food advice is still true today.
Oh man, it's truer than ever. Yeah, for sure. Awesome. Hey, did you get a copy of did I send you a copy of my new book, Unstoppable?
I don't have a copy yet.
Okay, I'll get you a copy by email after, and then I'll mail you a copy as well. That comes out January 21st.
Awesome, awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, you've offered a lot of books on many subjects.
I'm going to try and do like one a year. I've already got the next one planned out for this year. It's going to be called The Perfect Week Formula, because I realized The Perfect Day Formula was the wrong book,
Oh.
because it only covers one day. But I mean, there's so much more going on in a week.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I've been teaching this Perfect Week Formula. I taught it at a little bit at Rockstar, right?
Mm-hmm.
And people go, "Oh my gosh, that just makes so much sense." And so, and it's been really a big game changer for like the CEOs of big companies who have family and work and all this stuff. And so that's the book for late 2019.
Okay, so what I was going to ask, one of my first questions is, what is a perfect day? Then
Hey, hey, ask me whatever you want, and we'll go crazy and throw some curveballs at me, because I've done a lot of these and I always enjoy a new question.
okay, I think we'll start from the beginning and also kind of like the end game as well. So let's start
Sure.
with perfect morning. What's
Yeah.
what's your perfect morning, and what are you teaching people?
I think a perfect morning for everybody, not just myself, but everybody, is a little bit of time alone. Because what most people do, like the average person, and I would imagine our listeners are not the average person, but the average person, they wake up reactive. They hit the snooze button, so now they're 5-10 minutes late, and then they wake up. They got to get the kids ready. The kids are late. The kids are eating junk. They're eating junk. They're not eating anything at all. They're rushing. Now they're in traffic because they didn't get ahead of the game. Now everybody's upset, and the day's off to a bad start. Now, if you flip that and you're a proactive person, this is an above average person. This is a game changer in life when you're a proactive person, and you wake up 15 minutes earlier than you normally do. 15 minutes, and you go down to your kitchen table and you work on your number one priority in life. Now, that could be anything. That could be sitting there, like, I'm a writer, so I write first thing in the morning. I write for more than 15 minutes, but imagine you at your kitchen table with no distractions, no temptations, working on your number one priority. It might be you looking at real estate deals, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, man, nobody's bothering me. I can focus on looking at these numbers. There's no phones ringing. There's no kids yelling. Man, in 15 minutes, you might think, oh, 15 minutes, what can you possibly do? But I'll tell you what, you can do amazing stuff in 15 minutes. And when you do that 6 days a week, that's 72 hours in a year. So imagine 2 full work weeks of you sitting at your kitchen table. Think about what you could get done. Mm-hmm. And it could be anything from preparing your nutrition plan to getting out of debt to reading the Bible, whatever really matters to you. 15 minutes at a time, it's a game changer, and it set me free. So back just after I met our mutual friend who we were talking about before, this guy John, who's been in some of my workout videos, I was a personal trainer, and I wanted to sell programs on the internet. And what I was able to do was get up 15 minutes early before I started personal training people. So I had to work at 6 o'clock in the morning. So I was getting up at 4:30. I was working on my online business for 15 minutes. And then I would go and train people all day. And I'd come home exhausted at night, pass out, and do the same thing the next day. And in 18 months, I was able to quit being a personal trainer and have a 6-figure online business 15 minutes at a time.
Just 15 minutes. And if anyone complains about 15 minutes, you can go ahead and make it half an hour or an hour. Get up at 5 a.m. if you have to. Like, don't burn Craig's bridges for saying 15 minutes.
There you go, man. Some days I was doing 20.
Anything... I'm sure you do a lot more than that. Anything else about your morning that's different than others, you think? Or
oh, yes, definitely. Definitely. So I like to tease people. I like to tease people that they get up in this perverse form of self-care procrastination. So, I'm going to get up at 5 a.m. I'm in the 5 a.m. club. I'm going to do meditation. I'm going to do yoga. I'm going to do gratitude journaling. I'm going to do interpretive dance. I'm going to do all these things, and the next thing you know, it's 7:30 in the morning, and they have done this 2-hour morning ritual. And they're stressed out because it's like, now I got to get ready to work. And I didn't actually get anything done. And here I am getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning. And so I tease people a lot. And you probably saw these articles. They were really popular about 2 years ago. It was like the 14 things that successful people do before breakfast. And if you added up all 14 things, it was a 4.5-hour routine. And one of them was like checking your email. I'm like, this is so stupid. But, I blame like Inc. magazine and Fast Company magazine, all these companies for putting all this stuff out. So what I teach people to do is before you pass go and collect $200, before you do meditation, before you do anything, is you go and do that 15 minutes of work. It's It's if you go back to Stephen Covey. Stephen Covey has the four quadrants in the 7 Habits of Successful People, and the four quadrants. The two most important ones that we need to know about are urgent and important work, and non-urgent but important work. And urgent but important work is, I got to call that guy back, I got to email that person, I got to prepare for this meeting. That's urgent and it's important. I totally understand. But the non-urgent important work is what sets you free in life. It's what allows you to write a book. It's what allows you to create an online business when you have a regular business, like the Rockstar guys, right? Like that guy was doing non-urgent but important work outside of his regular job in order to build the Rockstar company. And so if you don't make time for non-urgent but important work early in the morning, you'll never find it during the day because everybody's days are too busy. Mm-hmm. So it's the bottom line there is for people to think, what do I really want to accomplish? What do I want to change? And what could I do first thing in the morning that would move me ahead to that before I did all these other things in the morning, mm-hmm. That got my day going.
So I've been following Stephen Covey, and I actually learned it through Brian Tracy, who basically repeated almost the same thing.
Sure. But it's like from President Dwight Eisenhower, who was like the first person to have 4 quadrants.
Very cool. So then I'll push you further on, because I believe many people make the mistake of what's important and what's not. I'm sure you've run into that too. Because like, say, for example, you have to answer an email. There's people who will answer every email. You don't have to answer every email.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So it's a matter of parameters, and it's a parameter around, okay, like I'm going to act on this in this situation, like a go, no go decision that you'll make. And you just have to like figure out, okay, what are the rules that I operate by? And the great thing is like the way that I've always approached life is that I'm going to make the world operate by my rules. And I know that sounds like crazy to some people, but even when I had a job, and I've had jobs, multiple jobs, I still made the world operate by my rules as much as possible. And so that meant I don't answer every email all day long. I don't answer emails between this time. Like today, like when I'm doing my what I call deep work or my non-urgent but important work, my phone is in another room, in a desk drawer, turned off, and in airplane mode. So it's 4 levels that I have to go through before I can actually see a notification. And some days I'll be like standing over it and taking it at airplane mode and go, dummy, put it back in the drawer and get back to work, because we're so tempted by these things. So I'm building all of these systems, like to build a fence around me that protect me and allow me to do the work so that I can pump out a book a year, and not just a crappy book, but like a really great book every single year that has a huge impact on entrepreneurs that can, like our friend John, who we've talked about a couple times. This guy is helping millions of people, and he's helping millions of people because I was able to help coach him to help millions of people. So now that's my whole thing, is how can I help as many people have a bigger impact through all this stuff, the information that I can teach them. But putting together that information, it's important, but it's not urgent. And answering the email from somebody who needs help with something right now, man, you can get caught up in that. And the next thing you know, you've had a busy day full of activity, but no accomplishment. And I don't want that to happen to you.
Right. And I think people mistake being busy with being productive.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, I mean, that's the whole thing with the morning routine. I've got 7 things that I do in my morning routine, and it takes me a long time, and it uses up my time so that I can procrastinate on the non-urgent but important work, like writing my book. I know so many people, and there's just one particular client of mine that sticks in my head. She's successful. She needs to write this book. And she was the person who would write me and say, my morning routine is taking up so much of my time. And I'm like, yes, you gotta stop doing those 19 things, because at the end of the day, when we're sitting in our rocking chair and when we're 85, 90, or, depending on who you listen to, 195 years old, being able to live forever. And you're sitting there and you're going, you know what? I never got around to writing that book. And that's a regret I don't want people to have, especially if they have a really important book inside of them that can go out and help a lot of people. Mm-hmm. And so I want to make sure that people make time for their legacy work in addition to their day-to-day.
Very cool. So now we talked about the morning. What's the rest of the day to make it perfect?
Yeah. So the rest of the day, I use this phrase in my book: control what you can, cope with what you can't, concentrate on what counts. It's the 3C formula: control, cope, concentrate. Now, It's from Stoic philosophy. So it's from this guy named Epictetus who lived thousands of years ago.
That's
And
an
when I
awesome
heard
name.
that, Epictetus, yeah, like nobody can actually pronounce it right. They call it Epictetus or Epictetus. So yeah, they eventually they get it right. Epic, yeah. So maybe it came from him. But so this guy lived in years ago in Greece. He got banished from Rome by one of the emperors. And anyway, so he basically was just lived this frugal lifestyle, and he taught philosophy. And one guy wrote down all the notes and brought them to the world. And I got a lot out of it. And so I took that 3C formula. I realized, hey, you control the morning. You control what time you get up. You control what you do first thing. You control what you eat for breakfast. You have more discipline. And actually, it's from there's a book called When, the science behind when to do everything by a guy named Daniel Pink, a very famous author. And he says, in the morning, you have greater willpower, discipline, and intention. So that's when you have to do the hardest work because you have the greatest discipline and the fewest distractions. At nighttime, you have the lowest discipline and the greatest distractions. So we control the morning. We really own that time. And if you win your morning, man, the rest of the day can go to heck. But you know what? You've won the morning. So the afternoon then becomes coping with the chaos. Cope with what you can't control. You know, the kids are going to get sick. One of them's going to throw up on the bus home, and you have to like leave work early or whatever. And you know, like something else. You know, one of your teammates is going to come in with an emergency, and you know, if you own a couple homes, you know, the plumbing is going to go in one of them. You can't control that, but it usually doesn't happen before noon. You know, most of the emergencies are in the afternoon. But what you need to do is plan. You need to think, okay, listen, here I am. I work this job. I've got these coworkers who are great, but sometimes they can be a little crazy. And I have to understand that they're going to come to me with some emergencies. So I need to be prepared for those. And that might mean preparing your schedule so that you're not too packed. Or that might mean like, you know, if you have real estate properties, you're like, okay, listen, I need to have a plumber. I need to have an electrician. I need to have all these people on call so that when these emergencies come up, I'm not scrambling. I need to have that person. I'm prepared in advance for the chaos that the world is going to toss on me. So that's the second part. Now, the third part is concentrate on what counts. And that means you concentrate on what counts in the evening. Family, you're present with them, your health, your hobbies, whatever it is. I mean, we work so hard during the day. We don't want to be working on our phones all night long. So I love the phrase like from the U.S. government, the separation of church and state. And I want to use that same mentality, the separation of work life and home life. And I understand it's not possible every night for everyone, but the more we can have it, even if it's just for an hour at a time, the more you can concentrate on be present on what counts in your life and, you know, have those memories. And that's what life is all about. So the last thing I'll say is that I've taught a lot of my clients who have young children to do a ritual that they have when they go home so that their kids don't see them on the phone all the time. And it's really cute. This one guy's taken it to extremes. And the ritual is when you go home and you have a young child, you go in and you say, hey, we're going to put daddy's phone or mommy's phone in the phone bed. And we're going to put it in a desk drawer and leave it alone for like an hour so that you and I can be present and we can have dinner and you're not going to look up and see me on the phone and make me feel bad and you feel bad and all that crap. And so this one guy, him and his little daughter, they built an actual bed out of an egg carton thing, and they put a little blanket and they put the phone in there every night, and it's only for an hour. So it's not like you put your phone in there at 5 o'clock and you don't see it till the next morning. That'd be tough for most people. But no, it's just an hour. And the next thing you know, your kid's off playing or doing homework, or you know, they've had enough of you, and you're like, okay, I can go back to my phone now and maybe catch up on some emails or text messages or whatever. Right. But that separation is a game changer, and you are concentrating on what counts.
Right. Actually, when you explained the put the phone in the drawer thing, I was thinking about my fifth level is I'll put it in my wife's office. So then she'll have to see me take it out, which is,
another... get past her dragon and her moat and all that stuff, right?
Exactly. Now you were talking about afternoons and people being prepared. Is that a common problem? Because I see it in my own business. It's a problem for me. It's a problem for many entrepreneurs. The word I'll use is scaling. Often I'll just say, I'll just do it myself and I save a couple bucks.
Oh, right. Yeah, you'll save a couple bucks in a couple minutes now, but if you add it up, like it's an investment, right? So whether it is, you know, teaching a team member to put in place a series of emails that goes out every time somebody contacts you, well, it'll take me 3 hours to do that today, but it'll take me 5 minutes to answer the emails now. But if you compound it, of course, it takes much, much longer in the long run. So, I mean, it's difficult because as an entrepreneur, a lot of us come from modest means and we're like, hey, man, I wouldn't want my mom knowing that, I tell people to answer my emails or take my phone calls or whatever. So that's one hurdle. And it's like, oh, man, I'm so strong. I got so much energy. I can just do it myself. And then the third thing is like, it'll just take me too much time to teach it to somebody else. I'll just do it myself, or they won't do it as well. Now, listen, Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, none of these guys got to where they are by doing that. Oprah, Sarah Blakely, you name the entrepreneur, they eventually gave up control. And I like to use this analogy when I'm doing my coaching sessions with entrepreneurs. I say, you need to become the Oprah of your business. And what that means is you need to be doing only the things that Oprah would do if she was running your business. Oprah doesn't, order the catering. Oprah doesn't check the lighting. Oprah doesn't, book the guests. Oprah just shows up and is Oprah. Mm-hmm. And so you need to think about, okay, how do I show up? And so the guy named Dan Sullivan in Toronto, he talks about your unique ability. You need to spend all your time in your unique ability. And if you can do that and delegate and motivate and coach other people to take over the other stuff, your business can scale. Mm-hmm. And my friend Bedros Keuilian uses a different analogy. He says you're 5%. Okay, the 5% of stuff that only you can do, and then all that 95% of your stuff in your day, you delegate out to somebody else. You don't abdicate it. You have to delegate it. You have to teach it to somebody. You have to train them up. You have to coach them to a high performance level. But once you do that, then you're able to move faster and scale a business.
So there's lots of small business owners who are listening to this. You talked about like delegating. At what point do you hire someone part-time, full-time, and then who is that person or what's their job?
As soon as you can, you're going to want to get somebody to do the administrative work and everything. Like if you can get somebody local who can do your administrative work on a computer, but also everything from dry cleaning to errands to all this stuff, anything that you don't love doing. Like I still like going to the grocery store. So I've had people do my groceries before, but I still like going to the grocery store because it's like an Easter egg hunt to find new protein bars. So I will still go to the grocery store, but I don't know how to do laundry, and I get that all done. I don't cook. I don't clean my house. I don't do that stuff. I'm a lazy person, so I'm very fortunate that my laziness has allowed me to outsource and delegate stuff. Mm-hmm. But you need to get that stuff off your plate. And again, you have to overcome the parental guilt that you might have of, oh my gosh, imagine if my mom or my mother-in-law found out that we actually had somebody clean the house. You have to get over that in order for you to help more people. Because listen, you weren't put here to clean the house. Somebody else likes cleaning houses and wants to clean your house and wants to make money. So don't deprive them of doing that. Let them do it so that you can go invest or build or whatever it is, write books. Like if I was cleaning my house all the time, I'd never be able to write books. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's the key.
Often overlooked, and I'm surprised how few people do it, is hire a landscaper. I haven't mowed a lawn in like 10 years.
No, I mean, I mowed enough lawns when I was a kid. Like, I get it. I know how this works. So it's that type of stuff. And again, it's a lot of people are resistant to it because they're like, well, I don't want to spend the money, or I don't want to ask somebody to do that, or I don't want people to think like I'm too good for something. But at the end of the day, again, when you're 75 years old, you're not going to go, man, you're probably not going to say, man, I wish I mowed more lawns. You're going to probably say, I wish I had more time for my kids, or more time for writing the book that I didn't write, or more time for, investing in the real estate properties that I never got around to investing in because I was too busy working, being a property manager for my own home. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's okay. I give permission. And the funny thing is, just sorry to cut you off there, is I work with a lot of female entrepreneur groups. And let me tell you, those are so fun to work with because, I'm this guy that comes in and I go, what do you mean you make your own meals? This is crazy. I give these women permission and they go like, oh my gosh, thank you. And it's really cute. And the next thing you know, they all have meal prep services and their businesses are growing faster because they're not trying to do the work of 4 people. They're not an entrepreneur and a mom and a cook and a cleaner and like, hey, listen, we're an age now than when our parents, raised us and when our parents grew up, and it's okay to make these changes.
Right. I actually have a nanny, so I know
Awesome.
I practice what you're preaching.
Good, my man. Good.
Oh, so many angles. I wanted to ask you what protein bar, because there's a lot of busy people on this on this listening to this who want to know
You
what
got
protein bar
you
you're
got
eating.
3 hours, son. Because
It's so
here we
hard.
go.
It's so hard to find a
You
good
got to
one.
rotate them. You got to rotate them. So I travel a lot, so they're like the kind of my go-to. But so I'll rotate between bars and Quest cookie bars, and then when you get in the United States, there's so many different bars, but the ones that you're going to see at the airport are the RX bars, which have 5 ingredients, and they're low in protein compared to a Quest bar, which is like 20 grams of protein, but in most cases they're better than a donut, and so that's where you start, and then you experiment from there.
Baseline's
Yeah.
donut.
Right, right, yeah. Anything's better than donut.
So we talked about the perfect day now.
Mhm.
How does that differ from the perfect week? Don't you just repeat that 7 times?
No, because hey, your Monday's different than your Friday. Your Tuesday's obviously different than your Saturday, and so basically, when you think about your perfect week, it starts on Sunday morning, and it starts on Sunday morning with planning. And so, one of my friends, he's a bigwig in real estate in America, came up to Toronto for one of Robin Sharma's events, and he went to the Robin Sharma event, and Robin Sharma used this phrase, and I want to give him credit because I like this phrase. He says, do your Sunday morning as beautiful planning." Because if anybody does weekly planning, they probably are like rushing it on a Sunday night. But if you do it on a Sunday morning with a clear, calm head and a cup of coffee or a tea or something, and you're sitting there and you're like artfully creating your week as much as you can, of course. If you have 4 young kids, it's going to be chaos. But we do as much as we can. So we plan that out on Sunday morning. And before you plan in any work, you plan in, hey, when are we going to have family time? When are we going to have date night? When am I going to have, my workouts? When am I going to have my massage if I want to have a massage? And when am I going to have this, are we going to have family dinner? When are we going to take 3 to 6 hours off of electronics as a family together and have what I call device free time? When are you going to do these things? Okay, those go on the calendar first before anything else. And then bedtime and our wake up time on there. And if we struggle to get to bed on time, we put a line across the bottom an hour before our bedtime that says reverse alarm. And reverse alarm is where your alarm goes off an hour before you're supposed to go to bed. And it tells you to shut down your electronics and start reading and start preparing for the next day. And the next thing you know, you get to bed on time. And then after that, before you put any work on, you're going to have your end of day ritual, which is where you would do something that I teach in my book called the brain dump, which is where you get all your thoughts down on your head or out of your head and onto paper. And then you prioritize that in a to-do list, and you do a little bit of subconscious planning for the next morning so that you wake up and you dominate, whether it's writing a book or working on real estate investments. And then you plan your morning routine so that you get that 15 minutes of work on that non-urgent but important work. And then you get a little bit of self-care stuff. Maybe you choose meditation, maybe you choose gratitude, maybe you choose yoga, maybe you choose a workout. And then even before you put your meetings and stuff on there, you make sure you have blocks in every single day where you do what's called deep work, to steal that phrase from Cal Newport. And that's when you have like a 90-minute block where you do your most important project. And now, only now, can you start putting in meetings and phone calls and all that stuff. And so I like to think like it's like this old story that we've all probably heard about the professor that goes into the classroom with a jar and he puts a whole bunch of rocks in the jar and he goes, is it full? And people go, yeah, it's full. And he goes, okay. And he takes all these pebbles and he puts all these pebbles in there. And they go, is it full now? And they go, yeah, it's full now. And then he puts the sand in, right? And it fills everything up. And so we want to make sure that the big rocks go on the calendar first. Because if we don't do that, we can fill our days with a lot of sand. And again, that's the lot of activity, no accomplishment life that we don't want to have.
Yeah, it feels like everyone's busier than ever.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, for sure. I mean, well, here's what. It's not our fault because at Instagram, there's 150 engineers with PhDs from MIT. Now, that's not a lot because you think like there'd be thousands at Instagram, but there's not. But there's 150. Every single morning, you wake up and you go to war with your phone against 150 PhDs. You're never winning that battle. Okay, we've been like those guys are making your phone addictive, and before that, we had for the last 40 years our best food scientists in the world working at Doritos and Mars Bar making food addictive. And so now we've got all these really smart people who have dedicated their lives to making us addictive to phones and screens and bad food. And that's one of the reasons why it's so hard to succeed in life. And it's, again, I'm not using like a cliche here. It's really not your fault. So what you have to do is you have to do your planning. You have to, put up the obstacles and your rituals and routines that prevent you from getting sucked into temptations. And that way you won't be one of those people who's super crazy busy. And you'll be one of those people who people look at kind of weird and go, I don't know how that person, how that man, that woman does all that stuff. They're successful. Their kids are great. They're driving a nice car, but I don't understand. There must be something. They must have an eighth day of the week, and you don't have an eighth day of the week. You just don't lose a day of the week.
Now you talked about going to bed. What time do you go to bed? What do you recommend?
I would say I like to get 7 hours of sleep. And so that's what I try and average on a week. A little bit of, I do a lot of traveling actually. And so my time zones can mess me up a little bit on that, especially when I go out to California. It's hard to sleep, but I will aim for 7, and I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. So you do the math. I'm going to bed on average, falling asleep at 9 o'clock. If I'm traveling, it's harder. If I'm at home, I can get to bed 8:30. Fall asleep, pretty early, especially in the wintertime when it's dark out. I think it's almost bedtime right now, and it's 5:30.
8:30, good for you. Last time we chatted, you were in London, England, not Ontario. Actually,
oh yeah.
Selfish question. Do you have any quick tips on dealing with jet lag? Because anyone who follows your Instagram, actually, what's your handle? Yeah. Just quick promo for your Instagram. What's your handle?
Real Craig. Yeah, it's Real Craig Ballantyne. So Real Craig Ballantyne, because somebody already had Craig Ballantyne, and I always love it when people put real. So I was like, I'm just going to be that guy who puts Real Craig Ballantyne as his thing.
So check out. So if you follow Craig's Instagram, he's not in the country often.
Yeah. So I look at it. I call this the operator mindset. And the operator mindset is that, just like a Navy SEALs going into battle, what would a Navy SEAL do? Well, a Navy SEAL is going to have everything in their rucksack, or what, I don't even know what they have, what it's called, but they know where their knife, their gun, all this stuff is. They've trained on it. And, this goes back to the protein bars. I know in my backpack where the protein bars are, where the passport is, where the laptop is, where this is, where the alcohol wipes are, because I'm a germaphobe. And so I wipe down everything in my pod on the airplane when I'm going to Europe. And when I land, even if I didn't sleep well, I know where everything is because it's all in my head, because I've done it so many times, and I get on track. And before I go to my hotel, doesn't matter what city I go to in the world, I go to a grocery store before I go to the hotel. So I get water, I get my regular foods as much as I possibly can, spread that out over my, my office, the desk in the hotel room. I get a fridge set up, and I stay on track. And as soon as I possibly can, I adjust the local time zone. In fact, that's what I do. As soon as I get on the airplane, I adjust my phone to the local time zone. And I'm always thinking, how can I plan my schedule, my travel, so that it doesn't disrupt a normal day? And then that way, I think I'm blessed with the ability to not be too jet lagged. But the preparation, the operator mindset and the preparation allows me to go and cross time zones and not get thrown off by it. I just don't. I know that some people do have a genetic, probably have a harder time with jet lag, but I think a lot of people just use it as an excuse, and so I avoid it.
Right. My last jet lag was I was in Asia for like 2 weeks, and it took me almost 10 days at least to feel normal afterwards.
When you got back?
Yeah, when I got back, and I'm at home.
Yeah, it is always more difficult going east, right? Because you want to sleep in the next morning, right? Like when you go from California to Toronto, it is hard to get up early the next morning. And it's a whole lot easier when you go to Asia and when you go to California. I did a week-long trip to Australia, and I bounced back pretty quick. I had one morning where I was like super like out of it, but after that I was back on track with a nap, and the time zone, it wasn't going all the way across the East Coast from Asia. So you do the best you can, and just prepare in advance. So, like, preparation is the key to success.
Now, I think you have a book on. I saw it come up a couple times. The Perfect
Yeah.
Life.
The Perfect Day Formula is a book, and then the Perfect Life Workshop is my coaching program.
Awesome.
And then I have a new book coming out in January called Unstoppable. So what do you want to talk about?
What's a perfect life?
Perfect Life Workshop is my coaching program where I help business owners make more and work less. That's what Darren came to.
Yeah. Yeah, it's actually funny because Darren Cabral, his podcast is dropping before people listen to this, and Tim Hong, who I work with at Rockstar, he's one of your coaching clients as well.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but I don't think people think about enough like setting visions and setting goals around what their life is going to be even 20 years out, 20 years from now.
Sure. That's a reactive approach to life. The proactive approach is to think. And I mean, I'm wired for thinking into the future and creating visions and stuff like that. So, like business strategy, I'm all about that. Mm-hmm. And I help, that's what I help my coaching clients do, but also in the personal side of things too, because if you don't know where you're going, you're probably unfortunately going to end up somewhere random. Mm-hmm. And what I like to use this analogy that when I help somebody create a vision for their life, it's like helping them get to Disney World. And at some point in our lives, almost all of us are going to Disney World, either as a kid or as a parent. You like it or not. I mean, I went as a kid, and a lot of people go as parents. But why do we go to Disney World? Well, because it's a dream destination. And so hopefully this shows up. But the dream destination is like my fist here. And this, if we know where we want to get to, we can just create a straight line to success. Like if you want to go to Disney World, it's not very hard. You can get to your dream destination in like 2 steps. You fly to Orlando, you get in a rental car, you drive to Disney World, you're at your dream destination. Now imagine if it was that easy for getting to your dream life. Well, it is. You just have to use a vision exercise, one that I spend a lot of time on with my coaching clients, to figure out, okay, here's where I want to be in 10 years, here's where I want to be in 3 years, here's where I want to be in 1 year. Okay, if I know all that stuff, here's what I need to do in the next 90 days to accelerate my progress in my quarterly planning so that I achieve my 1-year goals. Now, most people, they don't do any thinking about that. They might plan their goals for the next, for 1 month, and then be lost on it. So really, we need to get all that stuff out of our heads into place, and then we can really just map out in detail exactly what we need to do in order to be successful.
Awesome. Where can folks learn about this, the Perfect Life Workshop?
At perfectlifeworkshop.com, or hit me up on Instagram at @realcraigballantyne, or you can email me anytime. I love email. I'm actually an old school guy, so craig@godfather.com if you want to email me as well.
You got godfather.com?
I have a business partner who used to buy and sell domain names, and he would be buying and selling 20,000 domain names a week back in like 2009. Cow. And so somebody who owned godfather.com, they probably got fired. The IT person probably got fired for this the next day. Anyway, somebody let it expire, and he had a software that bought all these domain names, and it bought Godfather. And I guess he had like some system set up where it would alert him if something really good popped up. And so he just uses it for email, and he let me use it for email as well.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
any idea what kind of offers he's gotten for that? Just out of I know you weren't prepared for these questions.
I would imagine it'd be several $100,000 because he sold simple names for like $50,000. Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Now you have a gratitude journal too.
I do.
So
yeah.
I want to ask the question: how many folks? So you work with a lot of people. How many folks do you think are just down on themselves because they don't practice gratitude?
I think they're confused. They're envious. They're jealous. They're not focused on what matters because they haven't taken the time to do a little bit of gratitude and go, oh my gosh, it's not the Tesla that matters. It's watching my girl, learn how to ride a bike without training wheels. Mm-hmm. And yet here I am on the iPhone, trading stocks or something because I want to get a Tesla, and I'm missing out on my kid's life. There was a moment that I had, my business was based in Denver for a while, and I was walking around this park in Denver with the guy who gave me the Godfather email address, and and we saw this guy playing soccer with his son, but the guy never looked up from his iPhone. And I watched this for like 3 minutes, and the kid would kick the ball, and the father would walk over, not looking up, and he'd kick the ball back in the general vicinity of his child. And then the kid would kick it back with a little less effort. And then the father would go over and kick it back, and then a little less effort the next time. And I was like, the kid's going to remember that. But the father's just going to remember being on the phone, and they're going to wonder why, when the kid's 14 years old, that the kid's a dick and doesn't want to listen to the father. In addition to all the teenage problems, but now this kid is like, well, the father didn't care about me when I was a kid, so why should I care about him now? And a lot of that can be solved by getting a proper perspective on life, which a lot of stuff can come through gratitude journaling. So when I started gratitude journaling in like 2010,
wow.
I was like, yeah, I mean, I didn't know anything about it. And then I went to the seminar and they were talking about it. And I was like, okay, this sounds good. Because I had like a lot of anger when I was a kid and envy. And I was like, I'll try anything to like overcome these feelings. So I did it. And every single day, my answer was always like, I'm just so grateful for this easy life that I have. And because when I was a kid, when I was 13 years old, I was digging ditches for $3.10 an hour. Man, like, compared to doing that when you're 13 years old, making money on the internet is like you've won the lottery. So what I realize now is that at the end of the day, I've used that phrase a few times, like people and experiences matter the most. And I learned that through gratitude journaling, and it puts a big smile on my face when I can I have this section in the gratitude journal where it says list, 5 people that you appreciate today. And there'd be days when I would write out 30 to 50 people because I was just, man, I've talked to so many people today, or I was at a seminar. I can't believe how many friends I have. I mean, I know hundreds, if not thousands, of millionaires that I've met through all of my experiences over time. And it's like, man, these are such interesting people. I could go to any city in the world, drop in there, and I could have dinner with somebody really interesting because I just know a lot of people. And we could go to some place where we, $2 tacos or something, but it's an amazing person, and that's what I'm really grateful for. So that really changed my perspective on things, and it really helped me out. And then I formalized it in the gratitude journal that I put together and shared it with a lot of people.
Very cool. Yeah, one of the things that I took away from 2018 is how much I've enjoyed spending time with people, and also just naturally, I've been attracting more successful people. Where are you meeting fascinating people?
Through other fascinating people is probably the most effective way to do it. And yeah, I do go to seminars and I do go to events, and people do seek me out, fortunately, through some of the books and stuff. But I have a pretty good network in Toronto, and I'll just be like, hey, this is what I do. Is I go to Toronto when I have an apartment there. Even when I have an apartment there, so I'll go to Toronto and I will go to the Shangri-La Hotel in downtown Toronto. It has the best lobby in the world. And I'll go and I'll set up shop from 1 o'clock till 5 o'clock in the lobby. And I will order a tea, and I will make these appointments with people. I'll say, hey, this guy, you should come in at 1 o'clock and bring a friend, somebody I don't know. And then at 2 o'clock, I got somebody else coming in, and I say, hey, bring a friend I don't know. Or I'll arrange dinners with 3 people, and they have to bring a person that I don't know. And the next thing you know, I'm doubling my network just by having every single interesting person bring another interesting person. And you might not have any business to do with them, but you might get a perspective on the world. You might get a really cool travel tip, or you might get some health and fitness ideas. I might hear about some new random protein bar that I didn't hear about,
Mm-hmm.
and the next thing you know, it's been a really great conversation. Mm-hmm. So I make time for that stuff because I use this phrase that one of my hobbies is I collect interesting people. Like, what do you do for fun, Craig? Well, I don't play any sports anymore, and I don't mountain climb or anything, but I do collect interesting people. I don't have them in a jar or anything in my basement. It's not like Hannibal Lecter collecting, but it's more like I know these people now, and I've expanded my network. I can send them my books, and they send me nice things back and say, oh, thank you so much for your book, and inflates my ego. But now I know these people all around the world, and it gives me so much joy when someone comes to me with oh man, I'm struggling with something, and I can go, oh, I know a guy who can help you, or a girl, of course. I can help someone who can help you like that and solve your problem. And I've gotten so much joy out of that, just being able to solve somebody's like sometimes like $100,000 problem in one text message connection to one of these interesting people. And so that's what you were saying before is you've had more successful people come into your world. And, success is obviously a subjective measure, but phrase interesting. Mm-hmm. Interesting. I mean, they don't have to be monetarily successful. They could be, a volunteer or somebody or speaker or somebody who's gone through some, difficult times. Just bring me interesting. Someone who is looking to push themselves in life, to do more, to be more. And it doesn't matter how successful you think you are. You spend some time with some of these people and you go like, man, I don't understand how they do it. First, how they get it all done. But second of all, it's amazing. It's amazing to see, like I'm a money motivated guy. It's amazing to meet somebody who's done amazing things that has no money motivation. And after you get over like your guilt of like, oh my gosh, I'm such a terrible person for being money motivated, like, you go, oh my gosh, look at, like, it's so cool what some people are doing in charity work or whatever it is, or working for very little money but just making a huge impact. So man, I'm glad you had that perspective in 2018, because that's the riches and the wealth of the world, I believe.
One of my past guests, I've actually had him on a couple of times. He's a single dad, 3 kids, and he plans on homeschooling them as soon as they start high school.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
And then,
so John, the mystery guy that we keep mentioning, John and I have a friend who's from Toronto, and he homeschools his 5 kids with his wife, though. But they moved to Costa Rica. Like, they live in the jungle of Costa Rica. He's also one of my coaching clients who has an online fitness business. And one year, just a couple of years ago, they were like, yeah, let's move our 5 kids to a house that we built out of containers and like rubber tires in Costa Rica. And I mean, it's just interesting how like some people have a total different perspective on life. But that's pretty neat about the homeschooling dad. I mean, he's good for him.
Yeah, that's just wild to me. It's like, wow.
It is. It's totally different, but it just shows you how many people probably think what we do is pretty wild too.
Yeah, that's next level. Like, he doesn't plan on, his plan is not to send them to university either. He expects them all even while they're into high school, he expects them all to start businesses.
Oh, we'll see how that turns out.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Again, he's successful, but again, like the most fascinating thing about him, I find, other than going his journey and loss. But yeah, wow. I couldn't imagine. I'm not that patient a person. So you talked about kids. We talked about Instagram. What is it you're doing on Instagram? Because you've built a pretty huge following in a short amount of time.
Yeah. So I started Instagram. I didn't have an iPhone until 2017. I had a BlackBerry. I still have a BlackBerry. I have a 2010 BlackBerry, and it makes so many people angry when I start using it. But I use my iPhone most of the time. So I started in 2007. And now I have 30,000 plus followers. So I get about 1,000 or 2,000 followers a month. But I do what I call social story selling, which is in Instagram, you have your main feed, which is what I refer to as like the window of a Louis Vuitton store where you want to make everything look awesome. And then in your stories, you have like a store where everybody can go in and like look around and see stuff that like might be half off. Like, oh, I can't believe you tried to sell that. And so you can put stuff in your stories where you can really be down to earth to people. We were talking before we got on. I just got a hair transplant. So I don't know if people can see, but I got a hair transplant, and I documented my hair transplant in my Instagram story because I don't care. I don't care. It actually has made me more money because I sell my coaching and my Instagram program through my Instagram stories, and people are like, I can't believe you do this. And I go, what do I care? You just buy my course. And they buy my course. So it's really like Instagram is just so great if you are willing to share and you are willing to be open. And a lot of the stuff I model is from Grant Cardone. So I'm sure a few people here know Grant Cardone. That guy is an Instagram machine. He's always selling. He's always elevating his status. And doesn't matter what you think about him or his message or his tone of voice or whatever, there's so much to learn from that guy. And it's about always be promoting and always get attention. And so if your business depends on you selling things, you should be using Instagram that way. So I use it, my main feed. It's really awesome. It's got great value. I only post stuff that is valuable. and purposeful. I don't post any stuff that is only about me or that doesn't give value to you, the viewer. If you're posting stuff about what you ate for dinner last night, or about you at
That
a
was my
hockey
last
game,
post.
yeah, listen, like you at a hockey game, like it's fine for your friends, but if you're actually trying to make some type of business out of using Instagram, and I only use social media for business. I don't use social media for social stuff at all. But if you're trying to make any gains in your business through Instagram, none of your posts can be about you. They have to be about the other person. It's like the "what's in it for me" phrase for copywriting. You don't write a sales page about you and how great you are. You write a sales page about how this is going to benefit the end user. Mm-hmm. So all my posts are purposeful. That has helped me build a great following. A lot of people share my posts with other people. That helped me build a great following. And then I have thousands of people that watch my stories every day. And in my stories, I deliver great content through the same way that I delivered great content through email marketing back in the day. And then I make a call to action because, hey, in a minute, I've taught you some really important stuff here. Now, what I'd like you to do is, if this has been helpful, why don't you contact me about getting my Instagram course, or swipe up and get my Instagram course and I'll show you how to sell online. Or if you want to grow your business faster and work less, listen to the success story of one of my testimonials, one of my clients. I share that, and then just send me a direct message about and come to one of my next workshops. And so that's what I do through Instagram, and it works. And so people are probably thinking, well, how do you use that for real estate? Well, I have real estate agents as clients who are selling more homes and getting more attention through the same system. It's the exact same step-by-step formula. But if you just want to manufacture celebrity with Instagram, and when you manufacture celebrity, that makes everything easier, from selling something to getting a table at your favorite restaurant to getting free stuff in the mail. Like, you wouldn't believe the free stuff I get in the mail, like this shirt.
Yeah, I saw it. It's awesome.
Yeah. So I said on Instagram that this is my favorite emoji. And because I love using it because it's such a goofy emoji. And the next thing you know, I got this message from a guy. It was a video of him in his office, and he was screening this shirt 5 minutes later, and he sent it to me for free. Now, I'm not in Instagram for free t-shirts, but I'm looked up to as a celebrity on Instagram. So people send me stuff all the time because, well, first of all, they just like my stuff and they want to share some thanks, or they want to get them noticed or whatever. But it's all about manufacturing celebrity. And when you manufacture celebrity, that allows you to get on more podcasts. It gets you more views. It gets you more shares. It gets you a bigger email list. It gets you more sales. It gets you more people bring you their homes to list. And that's just the way the world works right now. It is celebrity oriented. And I chose to use Instagram to manufacture celebrity and make my life easier.
That's amazing. 30,000 organic followers in under 2 years. So is that your recommended path to build a celebrity now? Is this your best marketing channel?
I would say YouTube and Instagram is the free methods. And then if you're an internet marketing guy like me and you have an internet marketing offer that works, Facebook ads. So Facebook ads still work amazing, but Facebook itself doesn't work very well for free content. Right. And but Instagram is just, everybody's piling into that thing these days. So I don't know how long we're going to have left until Zuckerberg screws it up, but right now we're in a golden era of Instagram for sure.
Right. And where can folks get your Instagram content strategy document?
It's my course is at socialstorysellingSystem.com. SocialstorysellingSystem.com. And it tells you exactly what to say every single day, no matter what industry you're in, for Instagram.
Awesome. And folks listening, I'll have as many of the links as possible in the show notes. So, as usual, my guests aren't prepared for their questions because I haven't given them to them. You've talked about kids a lot. And one of your posts that will always stick out to me is you were doing a series on sharing your greatest fears, or you're just sharing. And you shared.
Yeah, that was one of my Instagram videos.
And you shared your fear, what you fear of regretting, if that's the right term, on Instagram to all these strangers.
I would, yeah. Well, here's the thing: is I don't care because, back in the fitness days, I made a whole bunch of really goofy fitness videos, like me looking like an idiot. And once I realized that nobody throws stones at you on the streets of Toronto because you have a goofy video on Instagram or on YouTube, that got me over the fear of judgment on the internet in general. And I realized, like, like even The Rock had a video up the other day of his daughter had painted him up in makeup, and he had lipstick on, and like, oh well, he's The Rock, he can get away with it. Everybody can get away with it. Nobody cares. We're all too worried about ourselves to care about what other people are doing. So fast forward to Instagram days now. I'm like, you know what? I can share something that most people would be embarrassed to share. And I say, I'm like, my greatest fear and regret, like, if you fast forward to you sitting in your rocking chair, it's like not having kids. And so that's something that is my focus, is building a relationship, not traveling as much in the new year so that I'm able to have a relationship with somebody, because most of the girls that I date have real jobs, and they're like, how can you possibly be gone 10 days a month? It's not going to work. So that's the type of thing that I just want to make sure that I'm not going to regret. And so that comes back to the vision thing. If you don't think ahead into the future of what you're going to regret, all of a sudden 20 years goes by and you have some regrets.
When do you do your thinking time? I get the feeling. So for me, if I'm lying in bed, my mind is as a hamster on a treadmill. My mind just goes.
Yeah.
I have this feeling you're very similar. Your mind is just always going.
It is, but I don't let myself. So I do my brain dump exercise before I go to sleep, and I read, and I'm off on it. So when I go to bed, I fall asleep like very quickly. I do a lot of my thinking in airplanes. So it's in airplanes and airports, because you're outside of your regular work environment. And when you're outside of your regular work environment, you actually think different. Your frontal lobe operates different. So that's why you get all those good ideas in the shower. And so that's really, really like a secret. Like most people aren't leveraging that. But I mean, I come up with great ideas in the shower. I come up with great ideas in airports, and everybody's going to be going, yes, I do too. And it's because your brain operates different than when you're sitting down at your desk.
Right.
Now, speaking of that, I actually, my Mac is about to die. I got to go grab my cord. Okay.
Okay.
There we go. Saved it just in time.
That's funny you mentioned you got some good thinking done in the airport and airplane. I was thinking when on my flight to Asia, it's 16 hours, right? I was thinking, oh wow, I'm disconnected. I actually have some time to like chill.
Yeah, so I mean, the thing is, like, when I go on an airplane, is I'll take like a pad of paper and I'll just sit there and I'll think, and hours can go by and I'll have come up with a lot of great stuff. But then I also spend time. I think Saturday mornings are a really good time for thinking. Like, just instead, don't rush into stuff on a Saturday morning. Just give yourself an hour of thinking, because nobody's going to be bothering you, and you'll come up with some really good ideas. And then it's also through the self-reflection, through the gratitude journaling, and through your weekly planning that you'll identify areas for improvement. But if you need to schedule in some additional big thinking time, make sure that you do, and then try and do it in an environment that is outside of your regular work area.
Mm-hmm. That's super cool. Yeah, Brian Tracy always talked about, I think, going for drives and just park somewhere with your notepad and just go.
Yeah, and I used to do I had a dog, and I would walk my dog, and I get a ton of ideas walking the dog, because again, you're outside of the regular work environment. Yeah, so go to a park, enjoy the time and enjoy good weather when you can, and go to a park, and you can say you're working.
Super cool. Craig, I promised you an hour. How you doing?
You got another question? I can do another 5 minutes.
I'm getting an hour of your time. I'm so grateful for this.
Yeah, no problem, man. No problem.
Where to go next? You tell me. What am I not asking? Actually, no. I have another greedy question.
Okay, good.
Prices. So you mentioned you wipe down your pod, so you're in first class on an airplane. Yeah. You make good money. It's kind of the extrapolation, and I'm not judging. I like you deliver. Your students deliver results. You can charge whatever you want to charge. Like, even as an entrepreneur myself, I have trouble charging certain prices. What is wrong with me? And what do you tell people?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I mean, there's levels and levels and levels of this. So for a long time, I was very fortunate that I was able to sell stuff through email, because if you had asked me to sell something at a high price or even at a normal price, if you asked me, like when I was a personal trainer, I didn't want to sell personal training because I feared rejection. And why did I fear rejection? Well, if you want to go super like Dr. Freud on me, it's, when my dad and I didn't have a great relationship, and he would yell at me a lot, and so I was being rejected by my father. That's like one of the most painful things you can have as a kid. And then fast forward to when I'm an adult, I don't want to have rejection from another person when I say, hey, buy my personal training for $100 an hour, and they go no. I would be so hurt by that I would do everything possible to avoid selling. Fortunately, I got into email marketing, which allows you to send an email to tens, thousands, hundreds of thousands of people, and you don't hear them all say no. And you can set it up so that you don't get any feedback from these people. Like, it all goes to customer service so that you don't have to deal with people calling you names. And people called me names all the time, but I didn't see it. And as long as you don't see it, it doesn't hurt you. So I was fortunate enough to do that. Now, eventually I transitioned into this business where I sell $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 coaching programs on the phone or in person, sometimes from stage. And that took me some time to get over and to work on my and overcome any imposter syndrome about charging high prices. And it wasn't like, there's not a magic fix. A lot of it is putting yourself, like dipping your toe in the water and realizing it's not that bad. A lot of it's getting some rejection, like, the old classic, Tom Hopkins or whoever said it, first, like every no is closer to a yes. Well, that's easy to say until you've gotten like rejected by 100 people and how bad that feels. But it is true that you go and you do a sales presentation and you're like, oh, I see that didn't work. Here's what I can do better next time. And the next time you get closer to a yes, maybe you get a no again, but I see what I did there. And now I get on the phone with somebody and I just believe in what I do so much. I've had so many clients get such great results that I feel like I'm still undercharging. And when you're in that position, if you feel like you're undercharging, and you can also, and this is tough to do when you're just beginning, but if you can go, hey, listen, they need my help more than I need their money. If you can keep yourself in that phrase and that mindset, then you're going to become a great salesperson, because you're not going to like come off. I love this phrase, commission breath. You're not going to have commission breath. You're not going to feel like, let's drop the price or anything. Or you're not going to be like, I'll give you this, this, and this. No, it's just going to be like, hey, listen, I'm going to give you an amazing result. You're going to get 10x the return on your investment here. And you know what? After everything, because I've got a sales process where they explain exactly why they need my stuff. And then I can just go back but you said, you know what? You're not spending enough time with your daughter. If you're not spending enough time with your daughter and you're not willing to invest, $7,500 to come to the workshop, you're probably going to be putting in $75,000 into therapy in 5 years from now when she's rebelling against you and could cause problems in your marriage. Like, I'll say that because that's really what's going to happen, because they've told me that their relationship is already deteriorating because they're not spending enough time with their daughter. And if they don't make changes now, it's only going to get worse. And that takes some practice to get used to that. But it is so important, because otherwise there's no action taken. And if there's no action taken, that stuff does happen. That stuff does get worse. Families do break up. And I've had people start the days of my workshops crying, and by the end of the day, leaving there going, oh my gosh, I see the path to success. I feel so free. Mm-hmm. They come in on the verge of an anxiety attack, and they leave knowing exactly what to do next. And so I know what I'm doing is totally worth it and more. And it wasn't like I was that on day one, but after doing the work and improving on it and realizing like, hey, here's the other thing, is that guy who wouldn't spend that $7,500, he spent $7,500 to go to Vegas with his buddies. Like, I hear this all the time. Like, I didn't come to your seminar. Oh yeah, then the other week I was in Vegas. And I'm like, what? You didn't spend the money on my event. There was a payment plan, and then you spent $3,000 or $5,000 2 weeks later in Vegas and doing all sorts of stuff. And after a few of those, I was like, there's no way I'm losing that game again. And I hear this. I also have to compete against Tony Robbins. I'm in totally different business than Tony, but people compare my stuff to Tony. And so I've heard from way too many people like, yeah, it was either you or Tony's stuff. And so I went to Tony's stuff. And I get it. Tony's stuff is good, but my stuff is more practical. And at the end, in a year from now, you're going to have lost what you got, I believe, from the Tony event, but you would have kept what you got from my event. And after hearing that I lost that me versus Tony fight for a long time, I learned how to get better at sales so that I didn't lose that me versus Tony fight anymore. Because I get it. Going to Tony event is a life-changing thing for a lot of people. I hear it's an amazing experience. I've never been to one. And you leave that thing feeling, hey, this was awesome. But I just haven't seen enough people change dramatically enough from a Tony event compared to my event. So here I am throwing Tony Robbins under the bus, which is like I'm not trying to do that. I'm just saying that I'm not losing another sale to Tony Robbins.
Right. You know, the people I see rave, I haven't been to one either, and I'm not throwing him under the bus or anything because he does good work, it seems. But the people who come from Tony Robbins events, they seem to get the most value out of getting motivated. Right?
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
If people who are listening,
that last?
Yeah, that's the other thing. Does that last? And also for people who are listening to this, they're likely already motivated. Like, do you want to spend like 4 G's to get more motivated, or would you rather invest some money into some practical tools that'll get you further?
Right. The exact action steps. And so, hey, listen, I mean, do them both if you can, or tell me I'm totally wrong, which is totally fine, and tell me what people can write in and say, hey, send me a direct message on Instagram and say, hey, here's what you should get out of the Tony event. Because I do have friends that go to all of them and love them, and I have some very successful people that go to them, very successful friends that go to them and say, Craig, you got to go, but I don't go. But just make sure that whatever you're signing up for is the right thing for you. Mm-hmm. And if Tony's right over me, then I'll tell you. But in most cases, I believe that the practical, like, hey, we got to go and implement this stuff, and then it'll actually be better if you go to Tony after me. Boom, that'll be great.
Awesome. So, Craig, we're well over time. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, it was a good time, so.
Where can people follow you? Where do you want people to follow you?
Yeah, Instagram, number one. So Instagram, I like to say this, and people say you're an idiot for saying this, but Instagram.com/Real Craig Ballantyne, or otherwise just go to Instagram and follow me at Real Craig Ballantyne. Get a free copy of my book at freeperfectdaybook.com. I've got a new book, Unstoppable, coming out in January of 2019. And then again, if you just want to email me and tell me why I should go to Tony Robbins' event, by all means do that at craig@godfather.com.
Awesome. And you have some speaking events lined up for Canada. Is it just Toronto you have speaking events for booked?
Yeah, I have a fitness event in April. I have some workshops that I'm going to be doing every month in Toronto. I'm speaking at a big event in Dallas in January called Capitalism Conference, which is by a really cool young guy named Ryan Moran. He has like 500 people there. He has like Stephanie McMahon from the WWE is going to be there. So that'll be a cool one. And then I'm trying not to travel too much until the summertime. So that I'll be in Toronto and perhaps speaking, and maybe at some event later on in the year in Toronto. I don't know.
Yeah. We haven't talked about it yet anywhere. So, but yeah, we have Craig booked for mid-November as well.
Awesome.
For anyone who wants to see him in person, live and in person.
And we can debate Tony Robbins.
Maybe
I'm gonna get so many nasty notes from people who are like, "You don't even know what you're talking about, buddy." Yeah. And I definitely don't mean to come off as downplaying Tony. I mean, that guy has changed so many lives. So yeah, more power to him.
Like my basket brigade was motivated by him. Like
cool.
The charity work I do was inspired by him. Like he was the first person to do it. So
yeah.